So, welcome to Joyful Sober. I'm Alison Lassick, and this is a series of conversations with artists, activists, entrepreneurs, and intentional people doing amazing things beyond drinking alcohol. So, today I'm really excited to chat to Rebecca Sullivan, who's an inspiring woman, sustainability advocate, and so much more. But first, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and extend that to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who might be listening into our chat today. I first came across Rebecca's work many years ago on Brooke McAllery's Slow Your Home podcast when she was introduced to me as the founder of the Granny Skills movement. Where she was connecting grandparents with high school students, but also encouraging all of us to embrace our inner granny and return to traditional methods of working in the home, garden, and beyond. And Rebecca, your passion for sustainability doesn't end there. I know you're also a published author, foodie and cook, regenerative farmer, teacher, and entrepreneur. So heaps going on these days. And it's really a pleasure to welcome you onto the show and also chat about the world of not drinking, which you're also exploring these days, I believe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, pleasure. So nice to chat. Where I wonder if we could start just by telling us, for anyone who's watching on the video version, where you're calling in from.
I just said to you before, I'm really sorry if you can hear cars driving past. It's either cars driving past, I'm opposite my office sitting out the front of the dental surgery, which I have a massive phobia of going in, but they've got a nice grass spot, or in my office where there's like three chattery women who probably wouldn't be able to shut up for 45 minutes. So either.
Perfect. It's really nice. I'm also really scared of the dentist. This is probably a good distraction.
Totally. I am going to go in there one day. I keep staring at it out my office window going, oh, I really have to go and make an appointment.
One day. So to kick things off, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about when you stopped drinking and how that sort of came about, in line with your all your curiosity and exploration around mindfulness, sustainability, and slower living.
Mm-hmm. Well, it kind of happened, well, not by choice really, to start with, although it's a choice now. So I was over in the USA as a Yale World Fellow at Yale University. There were 16 of us chosen to be World Fellows for that year. They usually choose 16 people out of about 5,000 every year to represent their area of work as world leaders. And I was the first Australian, sorry, there we go, there goes Darcy. I was the first Australian chosen, like a really, really long time. So I was among this amazing group of world leaders, and there was a bit of drinking going on in the after hours, socialising, getting to know one another, and I was the ringleader. It's very safe to say that I was the ringleader because I was also the cook. I ended up with the biggest apartment, the biggest entertaining apartment. And so the first 5 weeks of my time at Yale, I was always having people over for wine, getting to know people. The social calendar was sort of my responsibility. I've always been that person, like my whole life, bringing people together. And for as long as I could drink, I've been that person also. And then I was organising a birthday party for one of the fellows, and it was at my apartment. It was a Friday night. We'd had a big week. And I just didn't feel like drinking. And first I thought it might be jet lag because I just had to go to London for the weekend from the US for work, literally for 3 days. And I had drank quite a lot while I was in London because all my best friends live there. And I was so tired and exhausted, and I just blamed it on jet lag. But then I realised that my boobs hurt, and I was like, oh my God, no, can't be. Anyway, I sent one of the World Fellows, my dear friend Alex, down to the pharmacy, and I was pregnant. And I was like, oh shit, that means I can't drink tonight. And I mean, I probably could have had a drink. It was 4 weeks in, and everyone's choice is everyone's choice whether they drink when they're pregnant or not. But I just didn't feel like it, and that was very, very unlike me. So I stopped drinking then and there because I'm a bit all or nothing, and I sort of figured, well, I'm not just going to have one. I don't really see any point in that. So I stopped drinking. And then, long story short, I had my baby Mallie, and we had an incredibly traumatic birth, where we both pretty much died, and lots and lots of issues, and I ended up with postnatal depression and PTSD and anxiety from the birth of my child, and I had to go on medication, which I fought for a really long time. Being all into sustainability and natural living, I really fought against medication, and I couldn't breastfeed, which I was really heartbroken about because of my whole sustainable living stuff. And eventually I cracked, and I had to start taking medication, and I was really worried that the medication and the anxiety would be a problem if I started drinking. And so I just made this conscious decision to not drink for a while, which has turned into 2 years and turned into a decision that, I'm not going, I am never going to have a drink, but I am not a drinker now. And however long that lasts. But I actually think it's a life decision now. It's just something that I realized that I actually didn't like the morning after drinking, and I actually had anxiety around what I'd said the night before.
Yep, that anxiety the next day. And
Yeah.
and have you been feeling a lot better, in terms of that healing process and getting back to feeling like yourself without alcohol? Do you feel like it's played a good role in
I
it?
look, if I drank, I would be, I think, at rock bottom all the time. Um, I'm already, I'm definitely making progress, and some days are better than others, but I still struggle with PTSD, anxiety, postnatal depression. It's something that you don't just get rid of overnight. And so I'm, going through the motions. Some days are really bad and some days aren't. But I know 1,000,000% that if I was a drinker, um, one, I don't get any sleep because my son doesn't sleep properly. So that's where most of my anxiety is actually sleep anxiety now. And adding alcohol to that is not smart. Everyone knows that, you sort of have those 5-hour pass out sleeps if you drink, especially the older you get. Everyone knows that it's a lot harder to recover from a hangover the older you get.
Yep.
I'm 40 now. And, I also realised that I didn't really like myself drunk. I have had this real epiphany of, I really hurt a friend's feelings by telling her she wasn't fun anymore because she stopped drinking. And that, in hindsight, has made me feel like I don't want to drink as well. Things like that, moments like that. So there's been a culmination of a lot of things that have led to this, whether I knew or not. I also really struggled with insomnia for 3 or 4 years when I lived in London. And in hindsight, that was FOMO insomnia, that was my lifestyle choice was, I worked in the wine industry and I drank lots. It's a funny one because the word alcoholism never occurred to me because I didn't really drink. I was a social drinker, and still till 2 years ago, I'd go weeks without drinking. But if someone wanted a drink, we'd have a drink, but I wouldn't just have one drink. I'd have like 3 or 4 drinks. So, so many realizations. And yeah, if I drank now, I wouldn't be able to be a good mum,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah, yep. It's huge, isn't it? Like, it's so much a part of our culture and lives, and like so much of that rings true to my story as well. And things like insomnia, you don't even realize that alcohol's playing a part in it when it's all happening. It just seems like that's what you do, and these other things you just kind of got to deal with. But
Totally. And we don't have to. And I'm actually writing a book on natural sleep at the moment. Ironically, I started writing it before I had sleep anxiety. I started writing it at Yale with a professor of sleep science at Yale. Hopefully that book's going to come out in the next year or two.
amazing.
And so lots of the research I've done into this is alcohol really, really, really affects your sleep, especially if you have more than 2 glasses or whatever. For some people, 1 glass a night really helps them relax, but you get to that point when you've drank just enough for you to pass out, but you will wake up 4 or 5 hours later without a doubt, and you'll have a terrible sleep. It'll be a terrible sleep, a restless sleep. And we all know that the older you get, the harder it is to recover.
Yeah, yep. And without alcohol, do you feel like things in your sleep world are changing? Like for me, I notice all of these extra dreams, and the REM part of the sleep has
Yep.
started becoming really vivid, like maybe almost a year in, but probably not earlier than
Well,
that.
I can't really measure it yet because I have sleep anxiety that's postnatal related.
Mm.
But I think knowing what I do know about sleep, when I am asleep, yes, absolutely 1,000,000%. When I think back to the sorts of sleeps I would have on the weekend, because of alcohol, definitely I know enough about sleep to know that my sleep is better than if I was drinking, but my sleep is not great because I have sleep anxiety. So, for anyone that is a really bad sleeper that drinks a lot, it's worth considering, because it's not just alcohol, it's sugar as well. You've got to consider the
Mm.
sugar and the caffeine in lots of drinks as well. So, all those things really play a part
Yeah,
in your
that's
sleep.
huge. That's huge. Is that so I can't wait to read you this book. Is that some of your main findings around like what you consume having an impact? Or yeah, could you tell us about the sort of central themes?
Yeah, well, I mean, so it started based on the fact that, when I lived in London, I had insomnia and it was diagnosed, and they were trying to put me on all the drugs in the world, and I fought it and fought it. And the minute I moved to the countryside to go to ag college, I started sleeping again. And that was in large part because I didn't have that social pressure of going out all the time. And in London, they say Australians have a big drinking culture. London is a huge drinking culture, and it's 5 o'clock, you finish work, you go straight to the pub and you drink until 11 till you get kicked out of the pub. You catch the last tube home, and that is not a Friday, Saturday night thing. That's an every night thing. And
Mm.
so from my first realizations, back when I was 28, realizing that from a lifestyle perspective, drinking really affects your sleep. There are so many things that affect your sleep, but sugar, caffeine, alcohol are three of the major ones if you don't have a medical condition. And so there are two types of people that can't sleep. There's the ones that genuinely have a medical condition that does require medication, absolutely 100%. But then there are others that aren't necessarily medical conditions, but are lifestyle and environmental, issues that can be changed, adapted, worked on to make you have a better sleep, for sure.
Amazing. Such an interesting area to dig into because it's so fundamental, isn't it, to how we function throughout the day and relate to others and just
It
our
is
success in
the
life.
number one piece of advice or conversation or anything that I would give anyone. If you're a good sleeper, if you get the right amount of sleep, you're a better human. We're all better humans. And having just had 18 months of no sleep, like, oh my God, I just pray for everyone to have good sleep. And this goes back to this Yale thing, of being around 16 high functioning world leaders who think that they could function on 4 or 5 hours night sleep. They can't. You can't. You are eventually going to burn out. You are going to get adrenal fatigue, and you are going to be in a very, very bad position. Yes, some people can have less sleep than others, but you know, the, the sleep doctor, the sleep professor at Yale, was telling me this story around the research they did into Donald Trump's tweets, and figuring out, he was so proud that he only slept 3 hours a night, but a lot of his erratic behavior, according to the sleep scientists, is because he doesn't sleep enough.
Mm.
And there is no shame, no failure, there is nothing wrong with sleeping 9 hours a night. You are going to be a better person. You are going to get more done, and you are going to achieve more by having more sleep. Yes, you have less hours in the day, but I guarantee you, if you are having good sleep, good quality sleep, and the right amount of sleep, you're going to get more done in a shorter amount of time. It's just, it's common sense. The days when you don't have sleep, it's for 48 hours of less than 5 hours a night sleep is like being awake for 24 hours. So that
Yeah.
just right there in itself.
Yep. It's a really good reminder, something so fundamental. And in terms of your other areas that you're working on, can you tell us a little bit about your like farming and food work and what you might be doing around your native wellbeing brand
Yep.
Warndu as well?
Yeah, so lots of really great things going on at the moment. Our new First Nations Food Compendium, our new book, comes out next year. So we're just in the middle of editing that at the moment. It's Christmas time, so the Christmas orders are fast and thick. So we are spending every waking hour packing orders at the moment, making tea, putting gifts together for people, which is really great. There's been a lot of care packages sent from our company, which is really wonderful that people are not just supporting our Indigenous business, but really being aware of the beautiful bounty of amazingness we have in our own back garden.
Mm,
The industry itself has grown exponentially and demand is outweighing supply, which says to us that, it's no longer just a fad, it's here to stay, which is fantastic because we've worked really hard. For the last 6 years, we're working on some great future projects with the Women's Pre-Release Prison. We're working on our next Hagues collaboration. We're working on an Indigenous Culinary Institute. We're working on lots of amazing
wow.
things. Our education program, our farm, setting up our climate resilient demonstration garden on the property, being mum and dad, and just generally trying to be good humans, trying to get sleep when we can, and knowing that what we're doing is important work and legacy stuff. For we're never going to see the fruits of our labour really, but hopefully what we're doing is leaving a good mark on the planet.
Yeah, incredible. And do you think that, I mean, there's such a tie between all these things that you're working on, but this idea of like living more intentionally with an idea towards future generations, do you think this ties in at all to the world of not drinking from what you've seen in the 2 years since you stopped?
It's a difficult one because
Mm,
I don't think people that drink and don't have intention at all. In fact,
mm,
I know some super duper world changer, change maker types that drink. Um, I just think maybe for me, it's just it feels more. Um, well, it helps me be more clear in my work for sure. Um, I guess I feel a bit more organic in what I'm putting in my body. I mean, there's a lot of talk around, alcohol being poison and blah 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 blah, and but I'm not that extreme in my views with it. My partner
yep,
still drinks. He's not really a massive drinker. He's a social drinker like I am, and I've got no issues with him drinking. Most of my friends, still drink, and I don't,
yeah,
that doesn't faze me at all.
totally mine
Um,
too.
I'm just having fun trying to find, and I've been, for the last 2 years largely drinking just soda water, because I also don't want to just replace it with sugary crap. But the last 6 months I've had lots of fun finding some really beautiful drinks, and that industry in itself is booming, and so I'm really enjoying that and finding drinks with meaning and depth and and story,
Mm,
and beautiful ingredients. It's no different to, I've always been a big believer in the complexities of tea, um, having a tea brand myself, always tried to create tea with meaning and story and complexity, so it wasn't just um, a boring drink, so to speak. And I found that the alcohol industry and the drinks industry generally are really changing and growing and booming. So
mm,
I think I definitely felt a lot of the stigmas of not drinking when I first started, and even now, some of my friends are probably think that it's a bit weird because I've always been the ringleader, like I said earlier. But I think it's just one of those things. There's definitely people that were in my life quite a lot that aren't around anymore. Have you experienced that too?
A
Did you
little
have friends
bit.
that were just drinking friends? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think inadvertently it's definitely going to change relationships, isn't it? And like
Yeah,
those periphery kind of people drop off, but then there's definitely also a shift in other relationships in
yeah,
both positive and harder ways when it's so easy just to pop into a bar and see people, but then you actually have to kind of it's nice to take the time to think up more engaging and personal things to do together
yeah,
versus just
totally.
sitting there with a soda water gets a bit dull.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. And I have found myself feeling a bit socially awkward at times as well.
Yeah, me too.
Because I was able to just put my alcohol hat on and be loud and obnoxious and, you know, fun, or what I thought was fun, but probably wasn't fun for everyone around me. And I find myself, I don't go out. Well, it's probably because I have a small child as well, and no sleep, but I definitely go out less and want to go out less, and I'm not really, interested in the random stuff anymore. It's all a bit more planned and thought out
Mm.
and meaningful. My catch ups with people now are so precious, and my time is so precious now. Having a baby that, it just makes you really only want to catch up with people that, you know, for different reasons, I guess, is the easy way
Yeah,
of saying it.
those meaningful times versus I feel as though definitely for me it was so easy to get swept up with whatever was fun at the time and whoever
Yeah,
was drinking, that was it. And
spontaneity, and
yeah,
oh, one more, let's go somewhere else and have one more, and freaking hell, like the amount of money I must have spent on booze is like out of control when I think about it, because I would always be that person that would shout everyone shots and, oh, come on, let's have a bottle of champagne, every day is a special occasion, like that girl.
yep, yep.
Um, so God knows how much money I've spent on alcohol over the years. It must be a
Yep.
lot.
Yep. I worked it out just for like the last month before I stopped, and it was
Yep.
pretty eye-opening, that's for
Yeah,
sure. But
right.
then like it's
God.
kind of nice to know because then you can take away any guilt about treating yourself to
Yeah, yeah,
whatever, nice
yeah,
non-alc thing you want, or if it's
yeah,
a new top or
yeah,
whatever.
absolutely. I find that I'm spending way too much money on coffees now, so coffees and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a really interesting place to be in, and look, there's not been a moment where, well, since Mallie was born, that I've missed alcohol. Like, not even a moment. I
Mm,
think, in my work, wine is a huge part of my work, so I still taste, but I don't even want to swallow when I taste. Like, I spit it straight out. Like, I'm just not interested. And I know enough about this stuff to not feel like I'm um, lacking in experience,
mm,
So for me, yeah, I just like zero interest,
yep.
zero. And that might change one day, and I might, want a glass of champagne. And if I do, I do. I'm not going to make myself feel guilty about that, nor anyone around me. And I'm not making any, outlandish promises to the world, or, I'm every day is just every day.
Yeah, yep.
And at the moment, I am comfortable in being a non-drinker.
Yeah, it's perfect. No one wants to put pressure or, labels or forever on things.
Mm,
It gets a bit scary
yeah,
or overwhelming. And
yeah, totally.
yeah, especially it sounds like so intertwined within your work as well. And like
Yeah,
to still be tasting it and around food and that kind of
yeah,
matching. And yeah.
yeah. And in fact, I was talking to someone about an event today, and she actually said, "Well, why don't you just not match it to wine and do a non-alcoholic one? Like, you know what I mean?"
Mm,
And I was like, "Well, maybe I just will."
yeah.
I've found enough beautiful drinks that can be matched, and I've been to enough amazing restaurants whereby I've had juice matches or whatever with food, and I, I'm blown away constantly when I put up a post by how many people out there don't drink, and how many people I didn't know don't drink.
Mm.
That I would just presume are drinkers. So yeah, it's a really interesting space.
Yeah, definitely. That was something that surprised me as well. It felt like such a lonely road at the start, but you realize actually, of course, I wasn't looking around to see who wasn't drinking before
Yeah,
when I was just,
yeah,
having a blast, going
yeah,
finding whoever was drinking.
yeah,
Your
yeah,
kind of attention tunes to what you're looking for, I guess.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, that's so cool. And then, is there anything else that you wanted to share with us, Rebecca, while I've got you about sustainability, about what you're up to next, or about the life as someone who might be interested in exploring any of
Well,
these topics?
yeah, I just think we're in a really scary time, and eco anxiety is a real thing. Everyone, it's perfectly normal to feel shit scared about what's going on in the planet, not just climate change but COVID. Um, you know, without scaring people, I think sadly this COVID is the start of many things that we're going to see with permafrost melting. I have a master's in climate change, and I was learning about permafrost and disease back in 2010. With permafrost melting, we're going to see more and more things come that haven't been around, in our lifetime, in our parents' lifetime, in our grandparents' lifetime, probably. And this is the start of a new way of us having to adapt. But I always say to people, it's better that you know, we all try and make changes imperfectly than having 500 people doing things perfectly.
Mm,
I don't. I prefer not to be doom and gloom, but I like. I'm a realist. We need to make changes. I heard this amazing saying podcast the other day by this like hardcore Republican who used to be a hardcore Republican and didn't believe in climate change, and he does now and is fighting for the environment in Congress in the US. And he was saying basically we've all been smoking. We've all been smoking our whole life, and it's time to stop smoking. Even if you're 80, it's time to stop smoking because we can all make change if we stop smoking. And that just really resonated with me. I was just like, yeah, actually, all those people who think they're too old to make change or think that they can't make a difference, everyone can make a difference, and not feel defeated by it, and be kind to yourself because climate anxiety and eco anxiety is a real thing, especially in our Indigenous communities. It's something that has been, has words for it because it's a legit thing, and we just need to be kind to ourselves and
mm. I think that's really
know
wise words,
that
I
we're,
guess, because it's so
yeah,
easy to feel like overwhelmed or like I'm so small and I can't make
yeah.
like my change doesn't achieve much or yeah, it's really powerful, I think.
And it's not true,
Mm,
everyone's change makes a difference. It really does. And everyone's changes become habits, and it only takes a few weeks to form a habit. It's
mm,
it's like, once upon a time, we just used to take our keys and our wallet, and then we took our keys and our wallet and our phones when we left the house. Now we sort of take our keys and our wallet and our water bottle, and
a
hopefully
mask.
then it's and our keep cups, and now it's a mask. It doesn't take long for us to make those good changes. We just need a bigger bag now.
Yeah.
Used to be pockets, now we need a bag. And there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with men having man bags.
Yeah, for our takeaway containers and all the
Yeah,
things. Yeah.
exactly. So it's a scary time, but it's also um, a time where enough people are aware of it, enough people are talking about it, and enough people actually genuinely want to do something about it. So, um, you know, have conversations. It's no different to us having this conversation about being sober. It can sometimes be a bit awkward. We should be doing the same thing about climate change. It can sometimes be a bit awkward, and it can sometimes be, and it's the same. I've noticed these COVID conversations sometimes. You're going to come up against people that have completely different opinions of you, but it's really important in this instance to listen and listen to the why. What is the why for people that don't believe in climate change, or what is the why for people not wanting a vaccination? There's always a reason, and if we've shut down before giving people the opportunity to explain it, then how are we ever going to find some common ground and make change? So the listening to the why is really important,
Mm,
and it's really important when we're talking about being sober. you know there are many reasons for people to decide to not drink. And if we're going to be that annoying person that goes, oh, come on, you used to be fun, like I was, that's not
We've all
helping.
been there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as we've seen over the last however many years, people getting increasingly divided, I suppose. And part of that is just not necessarily listening to each other. We all get inside our own kind of echo chambers of our social media and reading particular news that supports our
Yeah.
views, and that idea of sort of openness to other people's ways of doing it and not feeling like we have the definitive answer ourselves already is really powerful.
Totally, 100%. And I guess also being sober allows you to have that brain space to actually have deep conversations with people, and listen, because we all know that when we're hammered or when we're drunk, we're not really good listeners. We just want to do a bit of this. So it allows that space for us to learn, which really, at the end of the day, that's all we should be doing our whole lives, is learning.
Learning from each other, yeah. And I would always find, and I think this is probably goes back to the sleep factor, but I would be so easily triggered by people that had different views to me. My initial feeling would be like this anger that would come up,
Yep. Yep.
and it's very hard to listen when you're triggered. And
Yep.
so, like, having had good sleep, having not been drinking, I feel like that all kind of settles down and creates this sort of openness and tenderness that allows, like, people really aren't going to open up to you if your immediate reaction is like this sort of triggered anger. But like, if you can sit there peacefully,
Absolutely.
different
Being on the
story.
defensive, and
Yeah.
I know that about myself. I'm a very emotional person anyway, and quite defensive, and 500 times more defensive when I am tired or drunk.
Yep.
Basically.
Yep, yep. Oh, it's completely true. It's like, yeah, that's one of the biggest learnings for me.
Mm,
Yep. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca. It's been so
pleasure.
awesome to chat to you so deeply about sleep and sustainability and not drinking and your personal story.
Thank
It's really been awesome.
Thank you. Can I give a few of my favourite recommendations for non-alcoholic drinks as
Yeah, we'd
well?
love that.
So right now I am absolutely loving. In fact, I just put together a New Year's party pack, New Year's sober party pack for our website for Warndu, and it has got Banks Botanical, which is this beautiful non-alcoholic spirit made in the Yarra Valley, which is full of wattle seed and cinnamon and lemon myrtle and pepperberry, beautiful with soda water or just on ice. Etch Sparkling, which is some of my favourite native sparkling drinks. I've got some Mischief Brew, lemon myrtle soda, and some pepperberry ginger ale, and some beautiful drinks by Scotty. There is some which is the non-alcoholic wine. My favourite is the caramelized pear one. And then I've got a bunch of like native botanicals in there for garnishes, because just because you're drinking something non-alcoholic doesn't mean you can't garnish it well, and doesn't mean you can't make it look pretty. So they're some of my faves at the moment. There's some really good stuff out there. Sober, which is the non-alcoholic beer, native infused beers. I love their lemon aspen drink, and their finger lime beer as well. Really beautiful. So yeah, just some fun stuff for people to still have, want to make it to midnight to have a toast.
I love that. There's such beautiful recommendations. And as we head into the festive season as
Yeah.
well, it's so nice to have some of those things on hand
Yeah.
that really elevate those
We need a new
occasions.
slogan for the silly season, because we're no longer silly. So,
Yeah.
we need the sober season, or whatever we want to call it.
Yeah. Have a think about that.
Yeah. Awesome.
I love it. Cool. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
No worries. Thanks, Alison.
It
And
was
I will speak to
great.
you soon.